Okay, thanks. Can we go to the next slide? Chef?
There are no updates currently. Nothing's significantly changed since last time.
Are there any questions? Okay, can we get the next slide, please?
Hi, there are no updates since the last meeting. Happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Thank you, Shreya. Could we move on, please? Are there any, I don't think James can make it today. I can't see him. Are there any questions for James? Okay, thank you. Could we move on, please?
The only update for me is that Nightline training, online Nightline training is available. The sign up closes at 6 p.m. on the 9th, which I believe is Tuesday. And the online courses will run over the weekends of the 13th and 14th and 20th and 21st of June, if you're interested. So get in touch with me or fill out the form that I've posted on the Facebook group if you're interested in signing up for Nightline training.
Thank you, Bryony. Are there any questions? Marcus has a question. Does anyone know if they're still cancelling trains? Would any exec member know the answer to that?
I know there are some trains that are still running, but I don't know if there's a blanket planning that's going on. But there are definitely trains running out of Durham.
Yeah, the train service is quite decent.
They are, however, adding in additional restrictions on bookings and seats and face coverings. So I guess just check the latest advice from the train companies and from the government before you travel.
Okay, thanks.
Also bear in mind there's restrictions on where you can travel, and staying overnight is still illegal.
What?
Bear in mind there's restrictions on where you can travel, and staying overnight in any place other than your home is illegal for the time being.
Do you know like where you cannot go?
Marcos, how about we leave this till after the meeting?
Yeah.
And we can explain more.
Yeah.
If there are no further questions for Bryony, has anyone got any? Okay, could we move on, please? Okay, we now go to our agenda items. The first item is it's the 2018-2019 budget. Vera, would you like to start, please?
Not budget, you mean the
accounts.
So yeah, as I explained last week, we always need to pass the accounts of the previous financial year at the AGM. So that's not for this year, but it's for the 2018 to 19 year, which was mainly covered by the last treasurer. The documents have been sent around to all of you. They have been submitted to the accountant, though I haven't heard back from him yet. The trustees have also had a chance to see these for quite a few weeks now. Haven't had any sort of negative feedback or anything from them yet, so it seems to be all in order. So yeah, it's mainly a formality that we need to pass them to retain our charity status.
Thank you, Vera. Are there any questions on the motion as it's proposed. Are there any opposition to the proposal? Are there any comments before we put it to a vote? One second. Okay, I'm going to put up the poll. You should be able to see it in a second on your screen. The poll will be open for 3 minutes exactly. After that is closed, you will not be able to vote in the poll. If you have any connections issues, don't worry, you'll be able to rejoin and still vote if you have not done so already. You can only vote a maximum of once. A reminder, external trustees, please do not vote in this. Okay, so you should be able to see the polling now.
Thanks for watching. Alex, what's happening now?
Alex, you are mute.
Sorry about that. There seems to have been some tech issues involving me being kicked out of the meeting. Connor, are you good to keep sharing the screen? Sorry, you're muted.
Sorry, it disappeared. That was not me.
Okay, sorry about that, guys. That was okay. If we go to the next slide. Okay, the next item is again Vera.
Okay, so now this agenda item is for the 2020 to 2021 budget, so for the budget for next year. As I have told you before during my report, we have quite a significant surplus this year, and that's why we are calculating on being able to sustain a certain deficit next year, which we expect that we will have because of all the coronavirus implications. So the university is, for example, planning to reduce the composition fee that it gives to all the common rooms, though we still haven't been told how much. We expect to have less income from GCR memberships if fewer people will be present from the beginning of the academic year. And of course, we still don't know yet from when social events will be able to be held and also to what extent. So the budget that I've put together and that has also been discussed and approved by the current exec is one that gives the upcoming exec the most flexibility, especially starting off the year, so that they're able to put on events if it will be possible by university rules and by government advice. However, once they see that any large changes occur, or once they see that, for example, if they won't be able to put on any events until January or something like that, they would probably need to amend that budget. But this is just like the most optimistic budget in terms of social activities that will make it possible for them to get started as soon as they can, basically. Yeah.
Thank you, Vera. Are there any questions on the motion as it is written? Alex Blair?
So my concern, as I mentioned last week, with the motion as written is it seems to be written for the university's plan A, where we mostly have unaffected. The template of the year is rather similar to how it has been in previous years. It was noted at the time of the VC and that university's plan B of having social distancing in place, restricting capacity of venues and locations down to 10 to 20% was likely, which is reiterated in an email this week by Sean Broadhurst. And a lot of the events that are budgeted on this on the schedule, including events for induction week, the 2 induction weeks that are planned in this budget, quite simply are very unlikely to be running at the capacity that those budgets are based on. So my initial question is the same as it was last week. Of has any alternative budget been suggested or written for the university's Plan B scenario, in which the GCR would be likely operating predominantly online or non-locally for a potentially significant part of the year, because this is much more similar to an existing. That's my first question.
The thing is, if a lot of social events won't be able to be held during the first term, the plan would of course be to push as many of them towards later in the year when they, so like we have been talking about late openings, for example, we would be able to push them towards later in the year. So even if certain things would not be able to be held right in the beginning, they could still be moved. And yeah, I mean, we can't change the budget from last week, so I don't know what you want, because I mean it's an emergency AGM. We can't change the agenda item.
Are there any other questions or comments? Oh, sorry, Gianna's got a comment for that.
So we are discussing with university the plans they have, and there is a very option. Like universities really tending to go through plan A. So I think this budget will be more adequate. Plus, even if we have, as Vera said, if we had a plan B, we can a little bit more like adjust the numbers. But as I had a meeting with university on Thursday, and we are looking into have the plan A, which will be, we are gonna have students coming to university, plus we are looking into how we are gonna have students on site and in colleges. So I think this budget will be more adequate.
Alex Blair?
So I think it would be if we do have plan A, mostly unaffected scenario, I think that would be great. But it is a significant risk that that will not be the case next year, and the budget as written would authorise quite a large expenditure for a set of events that may not happen, and for a new exec to come in without experience of how to propose and what things can be pushed and what things can't be pushed back in terms of the budget. I think we mentioned last week that out of the required spending in this budget, I think it was about $3,000, of which was for essential insurance and upkeep costs. So would it be possible to make a proposal to an amendment for this budget, Alex?
Can I just
Yes.
make a comment? I mean, the new exec won't be entirely unexperienced when it comes to these things. I mean, we're literally keeping the same president.
True, but we have, that's going to have, I think with the case of current exec going to be at 4 people at the moment. That's quite a small exec to carry out any of these events anyway. So usually when there's a smaller exec, that means that the events have to be downscaled from usual anyway. But yeah, would it be possible to make a proposal for an amendment at all?
If you can get a seconder, yes.
Yeah. So my proposal would be to only, so if it would be to amend this to pass this only on the provision that a budget for a predominantly online a budget for the university's Plan B scenario be proposed and passed at the next general meeting in order for the outcome of for the possibility of a predominantly online year to be adequately prepared for by the existing executive.
Is there anyone who would like to second that proposal?
Yes, Alex, I'm happy to second.
Okay. Bear with me as I'm just creating a new poll for it to pass that amendment. Alex, could you, it might be easiest if you type out and send me a message with the exact wording you'd like, and then I will create a poll.
I'm just going to write it in the chat if that's okay. gone past the.
It's okay. How's it going, Alex?
I'm just finishing up the last bit now. Just giving it a quick read through on that.
While Alex makes his final changes, does anyone else have any questions on the motion as it is currently written before we look at this amendment? Thank you for
To read out the amendment.
sending. Yes.
So, do you want me to read it out, or Alex?
You're welcome to, Alex.
Okay. So yeah, so my amendment is to pass the budget of £72,045 for the 2021 academic year based off an estimate of £63,600 for the operation of GCR if the academic year 2021 falls under the University's Plan A scenario of assuming medical impact of COVID-19, on the requirement that second suitable budget proposed and passed by the GCR at the next general meeting or by August 1st, whichever is sooner, for the operation of the GCR if academic year 2021 falls under the University's Plan B scenario, in which events predominantly will be digital in nature.
Thank you, Alex. Vera, do you have any comments, / would you like to accept the amendment as written or vote on it?
That's a question. What exactly do you mean by Plan B scenario? Do you mean first term digital or full year digital?
So I'm referring specifically to the Vice Chancellor's email as of, I think, 30, and John Braunhurst's email on the 3rd of June, in which, let's bring up the exact. So his email as of 26th of May, entitled COVID-19 and our plans for 2021, in which his Plan B scenario, which describes a spectrum of actions between normal and full lockdown. Plan B assumes we'll have 2 meter social distancing in place in autumn 2020, which means we'll run our teaching estate at 20% of capacity. And Sean Broadhurst has said in the 3rd of June that that's between 10 and 20% for the teaching estate, and that would also affect any other spaces within the university. Which would entail new ways of learning and socialising, details of which are being worked through. It's highly likely most of all lectures and people will be online asynchronous. So it's again implying that we'll have to do a lot of digital only. So it's direct reference to the Vice Chancellor's email on the 26th of May and Sean Broadhurst's message on the 3rd of June.
Does that clarify things for you, Vera?
Yep.
Would you like to accept the amendment as written, or we will move it to a vote?
Sorry, a comment on the wording here. What happens either if, due to some procedural snag, we are unable to hold a general meeting before the 1st of August, or if, say, it's not until the 30th of July that the university says, we've decided we're going to change plans? Because if the university announced on the 30th of July, that would basically put us in violation of this amendment, despite the fact that there's not anything we can do about it.
So if you're in violation of the amendment, that would just mean that you would have to pass a budget after that point. So the worst that would happen is that you wouldn't have this budget passed, and you'd have to pass a budget for academic year 2021 after that point, which in the case that the university gives you that information that significantly changes your planning for 2021 at that point in time, I think is reasonable. So it basically, if you aren't able to make up that cut-off date, it would mean that this budget would not be applicable, and that another budget would you wouldn't have a budget, and would therefore have to propose.
Yeah. So the requirement to the new budget, I have no objection with. It's the inclusion of the date, the 1st of August. Would it not make more sense just to leave it at the next general meeting?
My concern is if it were at the next general meeting and that general meeting took place through various reasons in mid to late September or October, then any planning that would be required for the next year wouldn't be able to be carried out in earnest, and we would probably we may not be able to do it for the number of people on exec at that point in time. So the date is purely for making sure that it is carried out with ample time to act on it. So if it's not carried out by that point, then you'd have to propose a budget for instance, in the case that you said you need information from the university changes on the 31st of July, then fair enough. That would just mean that you would have to propose a budget after that point anyway, based on that information.
Can we change that date to maybe the 1st of September? Because the thing is, this is just to give like the new exec a bit more time to think about what that would entail for their planning. And
if that were moved to the 1st of September, would that still be adequate time in order to change anything like levy payments or any situation like that?
I feel like there's a general assumption that the best time for another general meeting would be sometime in the month of August. Whether we have to move that forward or back pretty much depends on what happens between now and then.
Okay. So I'm happy to move it back, provided that it would not restrict the ability of the next budget to change things like levy payments and things which are going to be essential planning for next year, and that the date to which it is moved back to does not unreasonably restrict the budget that is proposed. So make sure that things haven't been locked in stone by that date. So I'm potentially happy with shifting it back to August 14th or even September 1st if it can be provided that that will not affect decisions like the levy charge for next year.
I mean, if we're in the position that it will affect decisions, then the solution is to hold a general meeting sooner than the deadline, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It seems, Alex, that you are okay with the wording being changed to or by September the 1st, whichever is sooner.
I am happy with by September the 1st, under the assumption that that would not restrict the ability of the GCR to change the levy fee by that point in time.
Vera, with the amendment as it is currently proposed, do you accept it or we need to vote on it?
Can I get Diana and Connor's opinions on if they would be okay with accepting it? Because I mean, they're next exec. I'm not.
So for the 1st of August, I agree with the point of view of Connor. So if we can move it to 1st of September or sooner, we can try to get any option.
Okay, I'm happy to move it to 1st of September, provided it doesn't constrain the levy charge to be unchanged at that point in time.
For my part, I think I've already commented on the issues I had.
Yeah, that's fine.
Our budget being officially invalid is not really any worse than our budget being completely inapplicable to reality.
Yeah, that's my motivation.
Okay, in that case, amendment accepted.
Okay. I have the amendment as written, the amended amendment as this. There are no objections from either Alex or Vera. I will amend the motion as written and then we can vote on that. Sorry, it's just not letting me copy it.
Alex, would you mind turning off your microphone? There's some good feedback.
Sorry, I'm just copying it, adjusting the poll. Okay, there's a character limit.
Alex just say like to
Yeah.
pass it as it's in the chat or something like that.
So sorry, that was the one I meant to put in the public chat. Are there any objections from either Alex Blair or Vera?
I would like to make sure, I would like to change the as long as it does not limit the GCR and planning for events for next year, because I do not want it to be implied that it could be carried out later than that date if it were the executive committee's opinion that it was limiting the GCR. Like, I don't want it to be viewed the other way, in the sense that a general meeting would not be carried out because it was of the executive committee's opinion that it would limit the GCR.
I understand your argument. What would you like me to delete that clause, or?
I'd like to say, as long as it is provided it is before any date at which the GCR must decide on levy payment charges. I'm happy with it being restricted to that.
I'm sorry, I'm having to put the motion in the chat because I'm unable to pass the full text of the motion in the Zoom poll. So please look at the chat. Vera, any objections to the motion, to the amended motion?
Wait, let me read it again.
So the only comment I have again is potentially putting us at the mercy of other forces. It's not the most ridiculous idea in the world that the university might only give us a week or a few days notice to confirm levy payment. But it's obviously the sort of thing that should ideally be discussed at a general meeting, so it's hopefully not an issue.
Sorry, I just cut out then. I heard at the mercy of, and then discussed at the next meeting.
So I was saying that any changes to the levy is obviously something that would need to be passed at a GM. However, it's not completely beyond the realms of possibility that the university might only give us a week or something to make decisions for them.
Yeah, and I think in that case, then that's got to be a general meeting must be held as soon as possible if that timeline is arbitrarily short. I think it's the motive here is that the GCR does not sleepwalk into keeping things like the levy and other activities unchanged next year because of a lack of planning. So I'm sympathetic towards the fact that the university could change things quickly, but I think that just means that any budget needs to be proposed and ready earlier. Yeah.
Are there any further comments on the motion as it is written currently? Okay, you should shortly be seeing it on your screen as a poll. You will have 3 minutes to vote on the motion, on the amended motion, the text being in the chat. Okay, the poll is now live. Could I please encourage anyone who has not voted yet to vote? If you are eligible. 1 minute remaining for those who have not voted yet. Thirty seconds.
The dog counted down.
Sorry?
What's the dog countdown?
Sorry, I can't hear you, Vin. Is that the dog you hear? Okay. It's now been 3 minutes. I'm closing the polling. The amended motion as written passes with 23 votes, 2 votes against and 3 votes in abstention. Okay, thank you. Could we move on to the next item, please? And Connor, this is your barbecue budget item.
Yes, so I'm just going to put in the chat a link to the same file I posted last week. This contains all the details that I'm about to summarize in pretty much the same way. You are welcome to read it at your own pace. If you're interested, I hope you already have done, because it's been around a week now. So the idea behind this motion is that the barbecue budget we passed at the previous general meeting is now completely unrealistic. Basically, we aren't going to be able to hold a summer barbecue as originally planned. While we still have almost 2 months to go, it doesn't seem likely that we will be able to hold a big public event on the 1st of August, or that Collingwood would be happy with us having a lot of people in their college. So we need to come up with alternatives. It might be possible to scale things back and socially distance, or look for a different venue, or postpone to later in the summer, but none of these seem realistic really, because people are no longer in Durham. Are they willing to travel? Are they able to travel? And so instead, our proposal is to do an online version instead. We're already in the process of testing out technology to let us do this. As with the poster behind me, we're running a virtual Use of Live this Friday. Please come along and have a look at that. It should be quite fun. It's going to be fairly low-key compared to our summer plans, but it should be an interesting test. And if you like live music and Use of Live, then come along to it. So regardless of the budget, the idea with our new summer event is that attendees will only be present virtually, either through participating in a comment stream as you have in Facebook or YouTube, or through joining chat rooms on Discord. We may additionally have a Zoom call or similar running to invite people to, but we don't anticipate opening this to everyone who's attending at the same time, because that would lead to chaos. So possible highlights for our summer event would be music, live, a mixture of live and pre-recorded, but intended to sound of a live caliber rather than just playing piped ordinary music off Spotify or something. We would have an online college award ceremony to replace the college awards formal, which has sadly now been cancelled. Expect some updates on that over the next couple of weeks, because we're going to be getting nominations and voting and stuff like that going on. We can run contests throughout the day, such as designing the best outfit or designing drinks. We're also planning on proposing a possible menu for food, possibly food, but definitely drinks, with a bar steward maybe offering a masterclass on how to make simple cocktails and mocktails for people. We can also add quizzes and games in such a way that they will be as open and accessible to people as possible. So we'll be aiming to make them easier to participate in than the weekly pub quiz. And if other people have any suggestions, then you're welcome to get involved in helping us plan this, or to email me and let me know. The idea is that because it is online, this event would be open to everyone. We can invite Easternovians, their friends, their family. We might try and work in some more kid-friendly stuff into it as well. We can also invite all of our alumni, and as was suggested by Matthew Roberts last week, we could also send out the links and information to new Easternovians to encourage them to come and join in as well, because by the 1st of August, most of them will already know what college they're going to be at, and so it's something that might help them get enthusiastic about USNOV, even if they are unable to come here physically in October. So none of these events are really a summer barbecue, because there won't be a barbecue. And so I've instead come up with some slightly different names for them to accommodate that. So the first proposal is what has been called Virtual USNOV Day. And this is the idea that we will still hire our tech team to broadcast live music from location. A possible choice of venue for this is USNOV Bar, which has the advantage of being cheap and accessible. And as an update from last week, we now know it can actually fit our power requirements and can probably fit our space requirements. So that's a nice thing to have in the bag there. The idea is that we would film and broadcast stuff near live. We would have a team of volunteers containing dedicated camera operators, such that the event will be noticeably different from an online stream. And the aim is to try and capture most of the atmosphere of a live performance. Our tech team that we usually use here and have already been in touch and talked about this have professional expertise. So we wouldn't just be relying on Easternovians to ensure things run smoothly. They've been running events like this throughout the lockdown, and so they know how to do this safely, and they've also been in touch with musicians, and there are performers that are now used to doing this and would be happy to do this. So yeah, the intention is that the performances will be of a standard that makes it worth the extra budget, and the segments we record on the day will be woven in with pre-recorded stuff and chat segments from committee and presenters and potentially prize winners as well. And so the hope is it will feel more or less like a real concert, but one you can enjoy from the comfort of your own home, with your own drinks, your own food. Whether you watch the whole thing, dip in and out, or catch up on the recording later is entirely up to you. So it's basically flexible and open to all. The budget for this is a total of £3,000. 1,300 of this covers tech crew and gear hire. We have £400 that we have labeled tech redundancy to cover unexpected extra tech costs, such as if we end up needing to hire an extra camera, something like that. We've budgeted £1,000 for talent, which is pretty similar to the original barbecue one. I would say it's unlikely that we're going to spend all that, but we don't know what people are going to charge given the extra risks and possibly insurance issues involved at the moment, and £300 general redundancy. So before I move on, does anyone have any questions about proposal 1 that I have entitled Virtual USNOV Day?
I can't see any.
Okay, I'm going to keep going then. If at any point through any of this you have any questions on any of the proposal, then please just raise them. So the second thing we've come up with is much cheaper, and it's the idea of running what we're calling USNOV Live Plus. The idea here is it would be relatively similar to the online USNOV Live event. So we wouldn't have sort of physical location for stuff. We wouldn't be physically filming or performing anything on the day. It's basically with the addition of a small budget of £700 to see if we can get any professional performers who would be willing to record performances for us to stream. The rest of the entertainment I mentioned earlier would still be included, but it's basically a smaller scale, probably less visually impressive event, in case the feeling is that £3,000 is too expensive. The other drawback with this is that we won't have any professional support. It will require more time from the committee, and if we have technical difficulties, there's not really any fallback aside from the tech team hurriedly trying to fix stuff. There is obviously still some cost with it. It's not a free event. But as with both of these, given we are making a significant surplus, even accounting for the full barbecue expenditure, we do have funds for this if it's something our members think is a good idea. The final and cheapest option is just, if we have no budget, we could still put on an event on that day. This would rely solely on Youth Novians to provide performances, and so wouldn't really be any different to Youth Not Live, aside from the fact that it would run a bit longer and have additional things worked into it. So it's very much, from my point of view, that's a fallback option if we don't have the budget, or if we don't think the turnout justifies spending the budget. But the idea here is that we want to be optimistic. We want to put on the best event for all Novians, alumni, and other people that we can. We can invite locals, we can invite other university students and showcase what we can do. And the other idea with all of this is, if we're going to have to look at doing more in the way of digital events next year, putting on a big online event with professional help would very much help us act as a pilot to give us some experience, give us an idea how people interact with it, and to be something that we can sort of use as a springboard to hopefully plan for the winter term if we end up having to do some kind of plan B, as mentioned by Alex Blair already. So does anyone have any questions on these three options, or, well, two options and a fallback if there is no budget passed?
I think Brad had one. Is he in the call? Okay, Brad says the biggest issue is partly that this is essentially £3 for a glorified version of a live stream, regardless of how good the technology. My main concern is that college days, and no doubt summer barbecues, are predominantly about a community coming together, which is impossible to achieve at home, regardless of Zoom, etc. At the end of the day, my fear is that you'll have people who are joining an organised event for however long they fancy and then dissipating. I think the event shouldn't be cancelled, but £3 seems absurd. I was wondering if you could provide any specific details, examples as to why the first option justifies the £3 price.
So the biggest expense of this is the tech team. It's the professional support that we feel we would need in order to run this day. This comes with a fair amount of their own equipment and also some of the specialized pieces of kit we would need in order to film stuff with multiple cameras and be able to stream it near live without any interruptions. The next biggest price is obviously the performers themselves, which is more or less what we need to make this a special or specific event, rather than just a bunch of pre-recorded stuff that is just going to feel more like you're watching a YouTube video and is generally going to be less visually impressive. Compared to the original barbecue budget of £8,000 and compared to original barbecue budgets, which have been well into 5 figures, I don't think that £3,000 is particularly absurd. We've cut the price by very nearly 2/3 on what our original proposal is, and yet because it's going online, our reach is actually bigger. We have the potential for people all over the world who might be interested but can't travel to Durham can get involved. The fact that it will be left online afterwards means people can watch it even if they already have some big family event planned on that day, it also means that they can dip in and out. I see that as sort of a benefit rather than a drawback. I mean, it's the same with the normal summer barbecue. You don't need someone to attend the entire event duration for it to be worth them attending, for it to be successful. For, you know, someone to turn up, enjoy it as they please, come back again is, I think, is a positive, because it means people are engaging with the event, where if they had to travel to Durham or if they had to attend the entire thing, they wouldn't bother. I think that's more or less everything I can say in response to that.
Sorry, I'm just getting home now. Let me get inside and I can speak properly.
In the meantime, we've got a question from Alex Blair.
Yeah, so I think mine's mainly an echo of last week, because I think originally I was a skeptic about the price, but I've since been quite strongly convinced that this is a very, very good idea. So I think that it's ambitious for sure, but I think that my concern is that if we didn't do something like this and we had to work in a predominantly digital year next year, it would be very hard to show evidence to what the GCR is doing, that, you know, someone with a Zoom call with their friends on a computer couldn't do themselves. And I think it's ambitious. It may not work. There is some risk associated with it, but I think doing it for the barbecue, when we have an existing college community who would be interested, we can extend it outwards, as you said, to university as a whole, new students, locals who may be interested in things, and see just how well a digital event is when we go all in with, and all in for this is quite still a low budget for things we do over the course of the year anyway. I think is a really, really strong proposal, and is the kind of ambitious thinking that we'll need to change how the GCR operates next year. So I think my flip concern was, if we didn't go big, I wonder what we would be able to do next year. And I think this is a good opportunity, as Connor said, to propose to learn out what that limit is, what can be done, and get that tech team on board, which is the bulk of the cost, to see what the professionals do.
Yeah, so basically I agree with that, and that is the reason that the two proposals we have are sort of so different in price, and that we don't really see any way to have a sliding scale between them. Either you have a professional tech team and you try and do stuff from location, and you have the support and you have the ability to try and do something that's more than just an online stream, or you don't. There's not really a way to fade between them. And in terms of justifying the price, that is effectively, so I don't anticipate we would spend the full £3,000. I think it would probably come in somewhere between 2 and 2.5, but I can't be certain there. We've proposed £3,000 because we believe it's the maximum we would need to put it on. And the reason we're proposing this budget is because that's what we need to run this event. That's the proposal.
Are there any further questions or comments?
Yeah, can you hear me okay at the moment?
Yes, Brad.
Okay, so I think that's a good point about how this is essentially an experiment, in terms of making events go on for future years, or like for the upcoming year. I think that's a very valid point. I'm still reluctant to say that I'm going to withdraw my concerns, because £3,000 for the tech team to still make a concept doesn't necessarily help addressing the actual issue of people attending the event. And I think you might be overestimating how many people would actually want to just turn up by them. Like, and if I think it works well if you have a house who are already together, but I don't think you're expecting people to turn up from abroad, like you say, or turn up from anywhere in the world, when they're essentially just going to be by themselves and they're going to be separated from college, which is maybe the kind of point of the argument that I'm getting at. However, I think in line with looking to see what the possibilities are, I think maybe that's an okay use of $3 grand. But my point is, go on.
So again, to reiterate Alex Blair's point, the idea of trying to go into October, an induction week, if we have to hold it almost entirely online, having not done anything large scale, would make me very uncomfortable, because then you have almost a captive audience in the sense that you have people that are new to Durham, they don't know what you've got to offer, and you need to try and get them hooked from the very first. And the idea that that would be our first online event, our first big online event, does not feel sensible at all. And the other thing is that I don't think I agree with you with what you're saying about people not really caring. Like the fact that someone can enjoy an event like this on their headphones while they're cooking as much as the people that might have it on one monitor while they're playing a game or doing some work on their other monitor, or they might be focused on it in their house with their friends playing a drinking game. Like, all of these are fine, all of these are good, all of them are people taking part in the event and enjoying it as they choose. And all of them would be examples of people benefiting from us putting the event on.
Thank you. Are there any, Alex, I see you've raised your hand again.
Yeah, mine's just very quick. I think like last week I was oriented that there were some ideas about ways of facilitating communication between attendees, like comments on the Zoom call, trying to use Discord for it if you could, try and set up some kind of communication scheme. I think to remember there was something about that last week. Am I right, Connor? Some way of facilitating communication between attendees.
Yeah, so for sure, we would have presenters throughout the day. YouTube and Facebook both have a comment stream, which would be synced. There is technology to do that. And so the idea would then be in between whatever acts and other entertainments we have, the presenters would be able to respond to comments, interact with people. And that gives a sense of involvement. I say it is in some sense a bit of a gamble. We have, at the end of the day, until it happens, we have no idea exactly how it's going to be received, but I believe very strongly that it is worth trying. And we also have very nearly 2 months after the use of Live before this event to figure out exactly what technology we want to incorporate into it and exactly what the best ways are to make everyone feel involved so that they can participate as much as they want to.
Alistair?
Yeah, hi. I just wanted to just make a comment that I actually don't agree at all that things like Zoom can't develop a sort of community feel about them. And as far as the reach goes, there have been people that have been attending the pub quiz from around the world. I know that there have been people attending different pub quizzes, not just within college, on their own or with housemates. I don't think it's true that you can't develop a community around a Zoom platform. And I think that the budget with the tech team, in order to make this as nice as possible and really make something of this, I think it could be a really nice thing. And I think it could actually bring some Eustinovians together and bring some other people together. Yeah, that was just my comment.
Okay, are there any more questions, or we'll move on to the voting? Okay, for this voting, I will first bring up a poll where you will select the option you prefer most. This will be open for 2 minutes. Once that is decided, that will be the motion to spend that amount of money. So there will then be a second vote to pass the motion. So here is the poll for the barbecue options. This will be open for 2 minutes. This is very weird, staring at a screen of people I know who can see me, but I can't see them. Poll will be open for 20 seconds more. Okay, the virtual Houston of Day spending £3,000 wins with 19 votes. Second was Houston of Live Plus Plus with £700 with 8 votes. And finally, Houston of Live spending nothing was £0. In a second, you'll get through another poll. Okay. Sorry, let me just share the results quickly for you. So these are the previous ones, so 1982. And for the next poll, to pass a budget of £3,000 to hold a virtual Houston of Day, proposed by Connor Armstrong and seconded by Alistair Stewart. This will be live for 3 minutes. Okay, the poll is now closed. Okay, the motion passes with 21 in favour, 8 against, and no abstentions. Okay, could we go to the next agenda, the final agenda item, please?
Yeah, would you like to read it out?
Yes, please, Alex.
Yeah. So this is on a much less formal note. So I'd like to propose an honorary life membership to the GCR for Mariah Reynolds. And I don't think anyone probably currently in Houston will probably know her directly, but everyone will have benefited from things she set up and her legacy. So this was suggested by Michael Baker, previous chair of the UCR, who worked with her very closely. And I know that seconded by Vera. For both myself and Vera have benefited from her work as treasurer, which she was in 2013 and 2014 immensely, because Mariah set up formalized many of the practices and some of the documents that are given out to all new GCR treasurers, along with Jesper Pedersen. That all handover documents that codify the formal requirements of things that the treasurer needs to do. So has been immensely useful and has had a lasting legacy as treasurer. But far beyond that, and one of the most important roles was EcoRep in 2014-15. So this is the year before I even started the USNOL. But she was essential and did a lot of hard work in setting up the Green Move Out sale, and was one of the most successful EcoReps we've had, as she got funding from the university to be able to set this up, and has been a completely essential core point for many years after that on both as treasurer and as EcoRep. And I know that in my second year, she was essential in helping the then Vice President get the Green Move Out sale going again. So she's gone way above and beyond position as both treasurer and EcoRep during her time on the committee, but also since her formal tenure, she has been continually keen and reliable to respond to strange questions about old GCR practices, keen to lend a hand whenever asked, and Michael has mentioned about particularly about induction weeks as well, about how keen she was to help out, even when she wasn't formally a GCR executive committee member. So she has, I do think she embodies what really is important to be as a lasting, make that lasting legacy and lasting commitment for the GCR. And as such, I think she's more than worthy as becoming an honorary life member of the GCR as a result. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alex. Are there any questions on the motion? Any objections to the motion? Okay, I will share the poll. Share results. Here's the final vote. You have 2 minutes for this.
I would just like to ensure that my name is spelled correctly in the minutes, because you spelled it wrong in the vote.
Sorry, Vera. A minute left. 10 seconds. The motion passes with 28 votes in favour, no votes against, and 1 abstention. Okay, that concludes our voting in the meeting. Thank you all so much for attending. Our final item is the House for ISO. We were unable to run this position fairly last week as one of the candidates had to leave during the meeting. We do have one of the candidates here, Mohammed. However, the other candidate, Kalel, hasn't appeared to have attended this meeting or is responding to my messages. So, Mohammed, we will do your Hus now, and if Kalel does not join by the end of this or get in contact with me, you'll be disqualified. Can we go to Kalel's slide, sorry, Mohammed's slide, please? Is it not on this one? Ooh.
Yeah, the answer there is no, sorry. If you can either privately in chat or by email send me something, or just one of you can share your screen for it.
All right, so my name is Mohammed. So I read PhD in political economy, first year. So I just joined Durham Uni last January. And before this, I did my master last 2 years in Durham as well. So my focus for international office are 2 things, which is the cultural diversity and the safety. So in terms of cultural diversity, is very important, especially when one comes to study abroad. This, in order to prevail their own culture, I would like to organize like a monthly event based on the continent. So for instance, a particular day in a month, one can organize, for example, Colorful Africa, or maybe next month, like Unique Asia. So on that day, a representative from each nation of the continent can share their value, for example, food or anything nice for their nation or with their colleagues. So as mentioned by Shaf in the previous House, so he said that not a lot of people attend the event. So maybe this kind of event, we can know what is their interest, and from their interest, so we might able to come up with something that other people can attend the event. So in the second one, which is safety. So safety is very important, especially when we see from the perspective of new people studying in country where they might not be familiar with. Maybe it would be very extreme for me to relate with the current movement that has been going on, but this is the reality of what the international student face, which is scared of the uncertainty. Plus, with how the uni handle with the pandemic is one another different issue is there. All right. Okay, so yeah, that's it.
Okay, thank you, Mohammed. It appears that Kalel has not turned up to this meeting, so he's disqualified, unfortunately. Thank you very much for coming back and doing that house again. Does anyone have any questions for Mohammed? Please comment your initials or indicate that you have a question. Alex Blair?
Yeah, so next year there is a significant chance that we might have a substantial number of youth Canadians who will not be necessarily present in Durham and maybe in their home countries for periods of periods of the academic year. How would you try and keep students who are not present in Durham necessarily engaged whilst they're in their home countries? How would you try and keep them make them feel part of a USNOL community, and once they feel part of a USNOL community, keep them feeling part of one?
All right. So when we talk about international students, so are you talking about in the next semester, maybe there's international students who are not living in Durham? Is that what you're trying to perceive, or?
Yeah. So, for instance, if there are students who have not been able to travel to Durham because of COVID situation, how would you try and make sure that they may be doing online learning for some part of the time? How would you try and make them feel part of the USNOL community, even if they're physically not in USNOL college?
I can say that one of the example is maybe like the one that has been stated before, like the virtual life of the youth student of day. So we are trying to replicate the same thing as well, and at the same time we are trying to see when we do something like that, of course we want to look at what is their main interest, because for the virtual, maybe that one they focus on youth student of day. Maybe in the future, maybe we can do like gaming, for example, gaming night, for example, yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Any questions at all? Well, thank you very much, Mohammed, for doing that, host.
Thank you.
So, sorry about this whole process. Okay, can we share the screen back to the PowerPoint, please? Okay, we didn't have anyone run for any committee positions for the regular committee non-exec, so you are entitled to run for any of the following positions now if you'd like to. The positions which are open for this time are Deputy Induction Officer and Webmaster. Would anyone like to run for either of these two positions? Could you let me know if anyone would like to run for either of these two positions? Alternatively, the following positions are still open and you can run in them, but you would need to run in October again. Would anyone like to run for dry burn rep? There are two positions for this. Would anyone like to run for duct liaison officer? For eco rep? For election officer? For press secretary? Or for Sheraton Park rep? One final chance to run for any of these positions. Okay, you will receive an email tomorrow mid-morning about the election for International Students Officer, which I encourage you to please vote online on the Duo. More information will be provided in the email tomorrow. Could we go to the next slide, please? This brings us to any other business. Does anyone have any other issues that they would like to raise now? Thom?
Sorry. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. So hi everyone, I just wanted to If you don't know who I am, I'm the chair of the GCR Board of Trustees. I just wanted to say a quick thank you from the trustees to the outgoing exec, and for just generally taking the GCR through what has obviously been a very strange and difficult year. I know some of our committee members are staying on, having been re-elected, but some people are also leaving. I just felt it was probably a nice thing to do to thank you for all your hard work this year, and hope that everything continues to go, as well as it has been so far. So that's pretty much just it. I don't want to keep going on, but I just thought it was worthwhile thanking both the outgoing exec and general committee members, and thanking them for keeping the GCR going through this time. That's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Does anyone have any other business they would like to bring up?
Yep. So if I could just add to what I said earlier about this virtual USNOV day. So thank you for passing the budget. We're going to do our best to make this as successful as we can. And with that in mind, if anyone has any suggestions of activities you think we could run other than what was already listed, then please send me an email. And or if anyone would like to get involved in the planning process as a volunteer, either just to discuss stuff before the event, or even if you're in Durham to potentially help us out on the day, then again, let me know. Thank you.
Does anyone else have anything to add? Well, if not, as I'm the outgoing chair and this is the end of my 4 years on the GCR, I'd like just to thank you all for the wonderful experiences I've had. Please excuse the last meeting, that was just awful, but it's been really great, and I encourage any of you who are here next year to run. It's really worthwhile. And with that, I'd like to bring this meeting to a close. So please vote in the upcoming elections. You'll find information tomorrow, but if not, that's all from us. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Bye-bye.
Thanks for hosting, Alex.
Hope it went
Bye,
better this
everyone.
time.
Bye. Just in time for the
Bye,
final
thanks,
chase.
Alex.
Thanks for joining the meeting, everyone.
If you stay, I'll bring a dog.
I stay.
Okay, I'll wait. But the final chase is coming, so please.
Where is the dog?
In which case, I better stop my screen share so you can see the
Yes,
dog in even
please.
more detail.
Yeah, Connor, get off.
She's under the sofa at the moment. I'm just going to get her. Haley's going to get her out.
We're just waiting for the dog.
I know.
I mean, that's why we all attended, right?
Exactly.
Can I bring my chicks upstairs?
Go ahead.
Actually, yeah, I'll take it down. Hang on. Okay.
This is Isla.
Hello.
Oh, have you not got your camera?
No, I haven't got mine.
What is it?
Good.
Hang on, I'm dropping you.
Oh, no.
You sit there.
Look at the pause.
Can we
Use
keep
the
it?
next chair.
Can we keep it in the office?
Oh, he's got a little top. Look there.
Oh.
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 She's quite intrigued by mirrors, but she doesn't seem to be the same way by webcams, it looks like.
Oh.
That's cute.
What breed is it? I might miss that.
She's a Shih Tzu.
Oh, nice. Very cute.
She was 12 weeks on Thursday, so she's still very much a baby.
Oh, she's such a baby. Yeah.
Baby.
Yeah.
Go back to your sleeping.
She might make it. I'm going to stop recording now.
Oh, yeah, that would be great.